Good morning, welcome back, fifth graders. Here we are at lesson 2 of unit 6, and it's writing equations again, solution and situation equations for multiplication and division this time instead of addition and subtraction like we did yesterday. All right, so what you need to do is open up your activity book to 6-2. I'm going to slide mine over here. And page 245. So I'll give you a minute to open it up to page 245 so we can read through them together and do the problems together. And then again, just like yesterday, we'll go over our 6-2 homework side and remembering to make sure that we remember what we're doing. All right, let's go ahead and start. So writing equations to solve problems. Sometimes it is helpful to write a situation equation and a solution equation to solve a problem. Other times you may just write a solution equation. All right, so let's look at number 1 here. Okay, so we're going to read the problem and answer the questions. Number 1, the first day of soccer practice, 2/5 of the players, there's our key word there, were wearing new shoes. The team has 20 players. How many players were wearing new shoes? So they have a nice little diagram box for us. And we have 20 players and it's 2/5 of 20. So we're going to go through this step by step. A number of players wearing new shoes is given as a fraction. Write the fraction. Okay, so our fraction here is, I thought I had my drawing on. Patience. Here we go. There we go. Okay, 2/5 is our fraction. B, the number of players on the whole team is given. Write the number. Okay, so we have 20 players. You're being asked to find a fraction of a whole. Write the solution equation to represent this fact. So 2/5 of, which means times 20. Okay, and then we're going to solve that. Remember, when we are taking a fraction times a whole number, we take our whole number and put it over 1. And then you want to simplify first if you can. And 5 can go into itself and into 20. So this becomes 1, this becomes 4. You do the math to solve. And you would get 8. And what is our label? Players. Okay, here we go. All right, so number 2, the musicians in a marching band are arranged in equal rows with 8 musicians in each row. All together, the band has 104 musicians. Okay, so if we were to use this model box like they have at the top there, we know there are 104 musicians, right? And there are 8 musicians in each row. The question is, how many rows are the musicians marching? So that is our unknown. Okay, so we have 2 factors and we have our product. So the situation here would be 8 times n equals 104. Okay, but the solution equation would be our 104 divided by 8. And that's going to give you n. Okay, so when you do that math, which you're going to do on your own, your answer should be 13 rows. Okay, number 3. Elena has chosen carpet that costs $4.55 per square foot for a rectangular floor that measures 12½ feet by 14½ feet. How many square feet of carpet is needed to cover the floor? Okay, so to solve this one, your solution equation and your situation equation are going to be the same. Okay, so you need to multiply 14½ times 12½. Okay, those are mixed numbers. You can't multiply them that way. Okay, you need to take your whole number times your denominator, add your numerator, and put that over 2. Okay, so 14 times 2 plus 1 over 2, and then the same with your 12½. Turn that into a fraction. So your 12 times 2, add the 1, and put that over 2. Okay, so then when you solve that problem, you should end up with 181 and 1/4 square feet. Okay, so make sure you do the math, and that's the answer that you should get. All right, my screen went kind of asleep on there. All right, let's go ahead and turn to the next page. I'm going to turn mine here. And you should do the same. So turn the page, and we'll do a couple more of these together. Here we go. All right, number 4. How many individual pieces of cheese, each weighing 1/4 pound, can be cut from a block of cheese weighing 5 pounds? Well, we have to think about here what's being cut up. The 5-pound block of cheese is being divided into 1/4 pound pieces. Okay? Now here's a little reminder here. When we are working with dividing fractions, 5 pounds into 1/4 pounds, okay, we put our whole number over 1, but then we have to turn this into a multiplication problem by getting the reciprocal, or flipping the second one. Okay, then you do your math from there. So a little reminder of how we divide fractions. Okay, and when you solve that problem, you're going to get 20 pieces. So make sure you do the math, and there's the answer you should get. Number 5, a supermarket owner's cost for a 26-ounce can of coffee is $6.75. A case of coffee contains 12 cans. What profits, how much money did they make, is earned for each case sold if each can sells for $9.49? Well, the first thing you need to do is figure out what is the difference between how much they paid for it. Let me get that off of there. How much they paid for it, and then how much they sold it for. Okay? Here we go. All right, so your first step is to take that $9.49 and subtract $6.75 to see how much profit they make on each can. And then once you get your answer there, you're going to take that times 12 cans. Okay, and just to check your work, you should end up with $32.88. Okay, all right, just like yesterday, we had a couple of problems where we're just looking at if something is reasonable or not. So we're going to do the same thing here. For number 6, suppose you were asked to multiply the numbers at the right without actually multiplying the numbers. Give a reason why an answer of 15,000 is not reasonable. So you have 2,500 times 0.6. Now remember, that's a decimal. Same thing as if we were multiplying a whole number times a fraction. So would 15,000 be reasonable? And why not? Hopefully, it came to your mind that when we take a whole number times a decimal, you're going to end up with a smaller number. You're actually taking away from that whole number. Okay? And number 7, suppose you were asked to divide the numbers at the right without actually dividing the numbers. Give a reason why an answer of 30 is not reasonable. So take a look at that. We have 90 divided by 1/3. Think about, what did we look at previously on number 5? When we're dividing fractions, what do we end up doing? We end up flipping the second one and getting the reciprocal and then multiplying. So that number is going to be a lot larger than 90. Okay? All right, that is it for our activity pages. Let's go ahead and pull out our 6-2 homework and go through these. We'll come up with the equations, and then you can work the equations, and we'll see how you do when I give you the answers for them at the end of the day tomorrow. All right. Okay, so number 1, we have spectators for a high school football game sit in bleachers along one side of the field. Altogether, the bleachers seat 1,152 spectators in 16 rows of equal lengths. how many spectators can be seated in one row of the bleachers. So if we did a model here, what I have is I have my total of 1,152. And I know that there are 16 rows. I do not know how many are in a row. Okay? So here's my situation. My situation is 16 times n equals 1,152. But what is my solution equation? To solve that, I have to take my 1,152 and divide it by 16, and that's going to give me n. Now don't forget your label, how many spectators, okay? Number 2, how many periods of time, each 1/3 of an hour long, does an 8-hour period of time represent? So we have to ask ourselves what's being split up here. Okay, so it's 8-hour period of time being divided into 1/3 of an hour long. So our situation and solution equation is pretty much the same. So you have to take 8 divided by 1/3. Okay, remember how did we do that when we did our previous problems? The whole number goes over 1, get the reciprocal of the second fraction, and then you can multiply it out. Okay, and again, your label, how many periods of time? You're going to get a whole number for periods of time. Okay, number 3, the area of a rectangular ceiling is 130.5 square feet, and one measure of the ceiling is 14.5 feet. What is the other measure of the ceiling? Okay, so we know that an area problem, area equals width times length, and that equals our area, and we have our area. So we know that 14.5 times something equals 130.5. So that is our situation equation. But to solve that, we need to do a solution equation of 130.5 divided by the 14.5, and that is going to give us our unknown. And we use n just because it's an unknown number. And what is the other measurement? So then we have to look back, what is our label? And it's measured in feet, so that's going to be your label for that one. Number 4, sorbet is a frozen dessert that is often made from fruit. How many portions, each weighing 1/10 of a kilogram, can a French dessert chef create from 3 kilograms of sorbet? Again, we ask ourselves, what's being split up here and what is it being split up into? So we have 3 kilograms of sorbet being divided into 1/10 of a kilogram each. So it's 3 divided by 1/10. All right, whole number goes over 1. 1/10 becomes the reciprocal. You flip it and multiply to get your answer there. And make sure your label, how many portions? That would be your label. Number 5. The family room floor in Zach's room has a rectangular area rug that measures 6.5 feet by 9 feet. The floor is rectangular and measures 10 by 12 feet. What area of the floor is not covered by the rug? Well, if we figure out what the floor is and take our 10 by 12, figure out what that answer is, and then figure out what the rug is, your 6 by 6.5 or 6.5 by 9, and then subtract the 2, that's going to show you how much isn't covered. Okay? What area of the floor is not covered by the rug? And number 6, last one on the homework side. A cargo van is carrying 20 identical steel cylinders. Each cylinder contains compressed oxygen. Altogether, the cylinders weigh 1/2 of a ton. In tons, what is the weight of each cylinder? Again, what's being split up? Well, 1/2 a ton, and there's 20 of them. So if you take that 1/2 divided by 20, okay, 1/2 divided by 20, that's going to give you how much each weighs. Okay? And then the second part of this, B, 1 ton equals 2,000 pounds in pounds. What is the weight of each cylinder? So if you take your, first you're going to get this answer. All right, you have to get this answer. And then you're going to take your 2,000 divided by what you get here. Okay? And then that's going to give you how many pounds. All right. Okay, let's go ahead to our remembering. And do a little bit of review, and the rest of it you'll be able to do on your own. I'm going to ask that you do all of them. There aren't a lot of them. And let's look at number 1 here. Just as a review, we have some multiplying a fraction by a whole number, okay? So the whole number goes over 1, and then you simplify if you can. 7 goes into itself and into 42. So 7 divided by 7 is 1. 42 divided by 7 is 6. Now I just multiply numerator times numerator, denominator times denominator. And I get 36 over 1, which is the same as 36. Okay, so that's 1 through 6, how you would do those. And then we have some story problems here. Number 7, there is 1/4 of a piece of pie left after a family picnic. 4 cousins share the leftover pie. What fraction of the whole pie will each cousin receive? What is being split up? 1/4 of a piece of pie divided among 4 cousins. Okay, so solve that and make sure you have your label. 8, Tully has 24 stamps in his collection. This is 24 that they're talking about. This is 1/3 times the number Jordan has. How many stamps does Jordan have? Okay, so what we know is 1/3 times Jordan equals the 24. That's our situation. So how do we solve for that unknown factor? We take our product divided by the factor we do know, and that is going to give us Jordan. Okay, and your label, how many stamps? Okay, number 9. Candace jumped 11.45 feet in a long jump competition. What is the length of Maria's jump if she jumped 1.05 fewer feet than Candace? Okay, situation, equation, and solution are going to be the same here. We know Candace jumped 11.45 and Maria jumped 1.05 fewer. So that subtraction is what we're going to do there to find out how far Maria jumped. Okay, and then we have to go back and see what is the measurement. It's in feet, so that will be our label there. Stretch your thinking. Miss Jackson has $97 to spend on games for her classroom. She buys 6 board games that cost $11.95 each and a video game that costs $24.10. Okay, so there's 6 at $11.95 each. So we have to figure out what that is, plus another video game for $24.10. So you multiply, add, and figure out how much money that's going to cost. She started with $97. So you're going to take that $97, subtract this total cost to get how much money they have left over to buy more games, if there is any left over. This concludes lesson 6-2. Thank you for joining me today. I hope it was helpful. And please join me tomorrow for lesson 6-3. Have a good night.